Karoline Leavitt is back, and she's not pulling any punches, from checking a smug French official who quickly remembered why global debates aren't his strength, to leaving Jeff Bezos visibly stunned. Every second hits hard. This isn't just talk, it's a clinic in boldness. And believe us, you won't want to blink. Strap in, because what you're about to see is nothing short of iconic. There's now a voice on the scene that's changing the game.
There is now a member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
This is both funny and wildly ironic. A French official asking for the Statue of Liberty to be returned somehow missed a small but crucial point. It was a gift from the French public, and his party only represents 14% of them based on recent EU elections. So technically, he's not speaking for most who gave the gift. But here's the twist. It's a left-leaning official making the request, as if that side still claims the global symbol for liberty. You really can't script this better.
Former President Biden, he's set to deliver his first major speech since leaving office tonight. I wanted to get the president's response, or if he plans to respond to this, and comments on what Democrats are calling cuts to Social Security.
My first reaction when seeing former President Biden was speaking tonight was, I'm shocked that he is speaking at nighttime. I thought his bedtime was much earlier than his speech tonight. I understand the topic of his speech will be Social Security. Let me make it very clear ahead of former President Biden's remarks. President Trump, is absolutely certain about protecting Social Security benefits for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens and seniors who have paid into this program.
Honestly, it's still hard to understand why Biden thought giving that speech was the right move. Public speaking hasn't exactly been his strong suit during his presidency, and this latest effort only highlighted that. From the moment he approached the podium, it felt like watching something unravel in slow motion. Unclear sentences, drifting off topic, and leaving the audience trying to figure out the point if there was one. It wasn't just awkward, it was tough to watch. But just when it seemed like political moments couldn't get more offbeat, in steps Karoline Leavitt. Because while Biden was working through written remarks, Karoline was out there delivering sharp, focused responses in real time. Her takedown of Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz after their latest attention-grabbing remarks, absolutely sharp and incredibly effective. She didn't just push back. She took apart their arguments with poise, precision, and a presence that made the contrast with Biden's moment even more noticeable. It's in moments like these you see why Karoline is gaining traction, while others are still trying to catch up.
Governor Walz saying last night, he frequently checks Tesla stock, in doing so to, quote, give me a little boost during the day. How should Americans view politicians who take pride in the downfall of an American car company?
I think that's quite sad, but I think Governor Walz unfortunately is living a sad existence after his devastating defeat on November 5th.
Exactly. When your political challengers include people like Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, the most effective move isn't to debate, it's to give them the mic and let things unfold. No response necessary, because every time they speak, they manage to do what entire strategy teams struggle with. They make their own positions harder to follow in real time. Whether it's Kamala's winding responses or Walz's puzzling statements, it feels like watching a scene from an alternate universe. No spin required, no tactics, just patience. Let them speak. Let it flow. Let the audience decide how these moments reflect on leadership and clarity. It's like witnessing a speech unravel in slow motion. And the most remarkable part, you don't have to do anything. Just sit back and let the words speak for themselves.
Well, I think it was a great reminder to the American people of just how blessed we all are. That the leader sitting in the Oval Office today is President Donald Trump and not President Kamala Harris.
Just to add on the Kamala Harris point, I think I speak for everyone at the White House. We encourage Kamala Harris to continue going out and speaking engagements.
And just a quick reminder, I noticed you haven't liked the video or subscribed yet. Go ahead and hit those buttons. It helps more than you think, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's talk about Tim Walz. Remember when the media was all in, hyping him up during that town hall tour? They were treating him like the next big star, a fresh political face with broad appeal. But fast forward just a few months in silence. After a series of awkward appearances and questionable decisions, the same outlets that couldn't stop talking about him suddenly went quiet, almost like they realized the story they were selling didn't match the reality. And while that's unfolding over here, across the Atlantic, the UK government's under pressure too. This time, it's Winston Marshall making waves. He's calling out what he sees as growing limits on open expression in Britain, and the message is landing. When musicians start sounding more grounded than elected leaders, you know something's shifting. So stick around. Between media narratives, political stumbles, and the rising call for open dialogue, this ride's just getting started, and you'll want a front row seat.
In Britain, we have had over a quarter of a million people issued non-crime hate incidents. As we speak, there are people in prison for quite literally reposting memes. Would the Trump administration consider political asylum for British citizens in such a situation?
Well, to your latter question, it's a very good one. I have not heard that proposed to the president, nor have I spoken to him about that idea, but I certainly can and talk to our national security team and see if it's something the administration would entertain.
Now here's where things really get interesting. This moment didn't just come out of nowhere. It happened during a White House press briefing that was set up specifically for new media outlets. If you were paying attention, you probably noticed the room looked different. New faces, different energy. It wasn't the usual crowd from traditional networks giving polite nods or tossing easy questions. And the topic, it wasn't breaking news or a fresh scandal. It was something that had been bubbling under the surface for months. Everyone knew it, but major media had been avoiding it, like it didn't exist or wasn't worth covering. Then suddenly, someone outside the usual loop brings it up, asks the question no one else would, and just like that, it finally breaks through. That moment says a lot about how media priorities really work. It's not always about what matters, it's about what fits. And if a story doesn't align with the usual angle, it's left out. That's why these new voices matter, because sometimes it only takes one person to step up and say the quiet part out loud, to remind everyone what asking real questions actually looks like.
To your first question about free speech in the United Kingdom, the Vice President has been incredibly outspoken about this for good reason. And the President has spoken about this as well directly with your Prime Minister when he was here for a visit to the White House. So it remains a critical endeavor of ours to show the Brits and your country, which we love and admire, about the First Amendment and the importance of free speech in a sovereign nation.
Jeff Bezos also faced some sharp on-the-record pushback from Karoline, and the way she addressed it was nothing short of masterful. She didn't shout, didn't overplay it, just calmly, clearly made her point. And the reaction, immediate. You could practically hear the collective double take. It's moments like this that show how effective clarity and confidence can be, especially when paired with facts. It wasn't about theatrics, it was about stepping up and making it clear that even the biggest names aren't above being challenged.
It's a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Now here's the part that's flying under the radar, but it's a game changer. Some observers are pointing out that this move actually helps Amazon users identify which products aren't made in the US. In other words, it quietly encourages support for American-made items, and it does it without a single sales pitch. Smart, right? But imagine this happening under a different administration. The reaction from major outlets would have been instant, wall-to-wall coverage, headlines forecasting disruption, and full-blown drama. You know the cycle. Alarm, analysis, repeat. That's what makes this moment hit different. Karoline didn't just take a tough question, she used it to her advantage. She stayed cool, steady, and handled the moment with absolute control. And just when you think that's the highlight, here comes the closer. A major slip-up involving a high-profile network figure. Yes, it happened during yet another press event focused on new media voices, And yes, it raised serious questions that legacy outlets weren't ready for. So yeah, don't go anywhere. This just keeps getting better.
It's racist what she is saying. The president intends on deporting illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws and are not only impacting communities across the country, but in particular communities of color in our inner cities. You remember the story out of New York City where young minority children were kicked out of their public school to make room for illegal immigrants to sleep on the floor of their cafeteria. That is putting America last. Doesn't matter your race, your religion, or creed. If you are a law-abiding American citizen, President Trump is going to put you first. And shame on Simone Sanders for saying.
It's hard to see what MSNBC was thinking with this one. They moved on from Joy Reid, possibly to shift the tone or reset the public perception, only to bring in Simone Sanders. In effect, it feels like they swapped one high-energy commentator for another and expected viewers not to notice. If their goal was to rebuild trust or reach a wider base, this wasn't a minor misstep. It was a full-on swing and miss. Instead of course-correcting, they just repackaged the same formula with a different host. And audiences, they're picking up on it fast. Because it's not about dialogue or thoughtful reporting, it feels like more of the same, just with a different coat of paint. But that's just my perspective. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've been into these segments as much as I have, share this video with someone who needs to see it. The support goes a long way, and what's coming next?